Picture it. The pearly gates. A taxi driver and a minister are waiting in line. St. Peter consults his list and he says to the taxi driver, "Okay, take this silken robe and golden staff and enter the kingdom of heaven." St. Peter next greets the minister and says, "Take this cotton robe and wooden staff and enter the kingdom of heaven." "Just a minute," says the minister. "That man was a taxi driver and he gets a silken robe and a golden staff, while I get a cotton robe and wooden staff? I used to work for you people. How can this be?" Well, St. Peter said, "Up here we work by results. While you preached, people slept. While he drove, people prayed." I'm going to move this forward a little bit. Okay. So we've been working on Lessons in Truth, Emily Cady's foundational book, commissioned by Charles and Myrtle Fillmore in the early 90s, not long after Myrtle had received her healing of her tuberculosis. And her husband decided to check out what was going on, and he learned to go to headquarters, as he called it, when he would go into meditation. We all just went to headquarters. And they pledged themselves together. They pledged all of their belongings. They pledged their daily life to the creation of the Unity School of Practical Christianity. All of this around 1880, late 80s, early 90s. When I first conceived that we would review this book, I thought we'd be done by now. I thought, well, we'll do 3 chapters a lesson. So we know how to make God laugh. So that plan's gone out the window. Part of it is because there's so much value. There's so many riches in this book. I think Ronnie shared with me that the group has had incredibly rich conversations. What chapter are you guys on?
9.
You guys are ahead of us. All right, so I'll take back what I was about to say. But there's so much to learn that each page, each paragraph, has something that we can stop and savor. So that last week we took a look at denials. And this week you would think we're going to go to the next chapter, which is Affirmations, and you'd be partly right. But several things occurred to me after last week's lesson about denials that I want to share, because I think they will do, the thoughts I want to share about denials will illuminate even more powerfully for us the value of the affirmations, and as the way Dr. Cady talks about them in her chapter. Now we tend in Unity, my experience in many years in Unity and New Thought is that we tend to value affirmations more than denials. We rarely have I come to church and had the minister stand up and lead us in denials, but we've often been led in affirmations. And that may be partly because of our unconscious desire to avoid conflict and difficult matters. But our founders were wiser than we might be today, because they had a better and more explicit understanding of what many Christian preachers would call the enemy. For us to experience directly the divine without any interference, without any disbelief, without any distraction, requires constant, regular banishment of error thinking, because that's what the mind produces naturally. The Metaphysical Bible Dictionary says this about the enemy. The enemy, also known as devil, the devil or Satan, is the deceiving phase of mind in man that has fixed ideas in opposition to truth. Satan assumes various forms in human consciousness, among which may be mentioned egotism, a puffing up of the personality, and its opposite, self-depreciation, which admits the accuser into the consciousness. This accuser makes man believe that he is inherently evil. This is a state of mind formed by man's personal ideas of his power and completeness and sufficiency apart from God. So as we take up a look at the practice of affirmations this week, let's keep watching over in mind the subtlety of the enemy, error thinking, and let's figure out how to bring about the power of the practice of denials as we take up the practice of affirmation. It's not easy to do. For one thing, we live in a culture where denial is generally subconscious and takes the form of pretending not to see unpleasant facts. Firm and active statements of denial like those that Dr. Katie and Emma Curtis Hopkins suggest do not fit well with even what we true students are used to. Take this cold that I'm displaying through my scratchy voice and stuffed up nose. So I've been using denials this week. This cold is a lie. I inherit no sickness, along with my affirmations. I am the radiant health of God. I am. And I still don't feel 100%. So I promise you, having said that error thinking and the accuser are alive and well in me saying, what kind of teacher are you? You're denying a cold and you're sneezing and sniffling. Even more fundamental is something somebody said to me in line last week as we were ending the service, which I thought was a powerful observation. She said, how do we deal with truly reprehensible acts that we humans have perpetrated on ourselves and others? After all, Dr. Katie and Ms. Hopkins both proclaimed the first and primary denial must be, there is no evil, right? We said that together last week. There is no evil. But what about Auschwitz and the Nazi Holocaust? What about Stalin and the communist famine of the 30s? What about Mao and Pol Pot in China and Cambodia? And other acts of wanton destruction that we humans did to ourselves in the 20th century. Most of us recoil in disgust, reprehension, and horror when we contemplate these horrific acts that humans have visited upon each other. And in our revulsion, now we're supposed to deny evil? This is a good question. This is a useful question. And I would suggest to us that we suspend our natural inclination to want to explore it until we finished our review of the book. This might seem a cop-out, but I assure you it is not. In the midst of our natural human reaction to the evidence of evil, we true students are invited to deny its existence and, by extension, its power. One of the reasons this is difficult, not just only at first look, but at second, third look, I might have taken a fourth look at this week, is because of the way we develop as human beings. I mean, in our infancy and our childhoods, whatever we are experiencing is primary. And as scientists would say, it's unfalsifiable. What we're feeling is the only thing we could feel, and there is no possibility of feeling anything else or even knowing that anything else could happen. In other words, we cannot deny. We can only affirm. In our developmental stages, from infancy and early childhood, there is no capability to deny. Denials are not available. We're only affirming whatever's showing up is true. The capacity to deny arises only with the capacity to think and analyze and consciously choose. And this will only come after our initial way of being in the world, what Dr. Katie calls bondage of the flesh, has been hardwired into our emotional infrastructure. So to deal with this difficulty, this fundamental existential difficulty, Dr. Katie is building a methodical tutorial that includes teaching us a new way to ask and receive answers to fundamental questions, a way, if you will, to transcend and disempower our hard wiring. Remember what she says in the preface of the book when she asks us to suspend our attachment to what we think we know about God, existence, good and evil, until she's had the opportunity to lay the entire argument before us. She says, if there is anything as we proceed which you do not understand or agree with, just let it passively lie in your mind until you have read the entire book. For many statements that would at first arouse antagonism and discussion will be clear and easily accepted a little further on. After the course is completed, if you wish to return to your old beliefs and ways of living, you are at perfect liberty to do so. But for the time being, be willing to come as a little child. For, as the Master said in spiritual things, except you become as little children, you shall in no wise enter into the kingdom of heaven. And she says, if at times there seems to be repetition, please remember that these are lessons, not lectures. So it's perfectly all right, in light of what Dr. Katie proposes in the chapter in Denials, to feel a little queasy, uncertain, or even to disagree. It's even all right to deny a cold and still have sore throat and sniffles. We are, after all, investigating a claim about God and truth that absolutely challenges our original wired-in system to the core. She laid it out for us in the first line of the book, as I've reminded us. Remember, the first line, this is the thesis that she's working from. Every man believes himself to be in bondage to the flesh and to the things of the flesh, all suffering as a result of this belief. So we saw last week, that the application of denials is a necessary but not yet sufficient practice for us to find what Dr. Katie says is a place where we can see that our doing can cease because we realize that spirit is the fulfillment of all our desires. So with denials, we first let go of the false and then immediately turn to the truth. Denial, then affirmation, together. These activities are two sides of the same coin, for they take on the stubbornness of our minds and their needs to have belief. So there can be no denials without complementary affirmations. In Christian Scientific Mental Practice, Emma Curtis Hopkins says, there is no use making the affirmations until we have made the denials. So we negate error thoughts in order to implant truth thoughts. The mind naturally asks, if this is wrong or false, what should replace it that's true or accurate? Dr. Katie says, they who have carefully studied spiritual law find that besides denying the reality and power of apparent evil, which denying frees them from it, they can also bring any desired good into their lives by persistently affirming it is there already. In the first instructions given to students, the denials and affirmations take a large place. Later on, just like in Graduate Unity, later on, their personal experiences and inward guidance lead them to an understanding of divine law that makes it easy for them to follow simple rules that at first seem difficult. So we all know what an affirmation is. Dr. Katie says, affirmation is asserting positively that something is so, even in the face of contrary evidence. So I'm not going to dwell on what affirmations are. We've all worked on these for a long time. I would suspect that most of us in this room naturally affirm things when things are difficult, that we've learned this enough that springs to our minds. So I want to look at something else that's really important in this chapter. That's when she looks at the underlying substance that application of denials and affirmation activates. Remember what she told us in the second chapter. This substance is our connection to an eventual embodiment of the indwelling spirit that is our true nature. Replacing our original belief system, the one that grew in us before we even had conscious thought, in which can neither experience nor know that we and the Father are one, replacing that with firm knowledge, not mere belief, but knowledge, that we are indeed the same substance as the Father, happens only because we use these tools with faith in their effectiveness. Faith in their effectiveness. Dr. Katie says, there is attainable by us a place where we can see that our doing can cease. Doing can cease. Because we realize, we make real, that spirit is the fulfillment of all our desires. We simply get still and know that all things whatsoever we desire are ours already. And this knowing, or recognizing it, has power to bring the invisible God or good, the innermost substance of all being, of all things, to bring these forth into just the visible form of good that we want. But in order to attain this place of power, we must take the preliminary steps faithfully. We're going to take this step first. We must take the preliminary steps faithfully, earnestly, trustingly. These steps at first glance seem to us useless and as empty as the ceremonial forms and religious observance of the ritualistic churchman. Because in the second chapter we learned about the allness of God, that God comprises all the elements and dynamics of both the visible and invisible worlds, and we learned that as such, God comprises each of us equally, completely. God is all good. Emma Hopkins, interestingly enough, Emma Curtis Hopkins, uses the words good and God interchangeably in her book. This is what Dr. Katie says. The beautiful presence all about us and within us is the substance of every good that we can possibly desire. Infinitely more than we are capable of desiring, for, quoting Corinthians, eye hath not seen, nor ear heard, neither have entered into the heart of man the things which God hath prepared for them that love him. So as we take on the conscious practice of denials and affirmations, we take on the conscious practice of denials and affirmations because our words have the same creative power that John ascribes to God in the beginning of his gospel. In the beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Words, we saw last week, like thoughts, are neutral. It is our beliefs about them that inform their creative results. It's what we believe that leads to our words creating what they create. This is what Dr. Katie says. In some ways, which is not easy to put into words, ironically, for spiritual words cannot always be compassed in human words, and yet they are nonetheless infallible, immutable laws that work with precision and certainty. There is power in our word of faith to bring all things right into our everyday life. We speak the word, we confidently affirm, but we have nothing to do with the establishing of the word or bringing it to pass. That's where faith steps in. Quoting Job, she says, "Thou shalt also decree a thing, and it shall be established unto thee." Dr. Katie says, so if we decree or affirm unwaveringly, steadfastly, we hold God by his own unalterable laws to do the establishing or fulfilling. So it's our faith that God responds to our words and thoughts accurately and appropriately, completely, that permits us to speak with confidence and assurance. That's where our confident living comes from. This matter of faith and how we come to believe is of essential importance. And the next chapter, entitled Faith, will help us appreciate what that is and how it operates. Faith is the key to unlocking transcendence beyond our physical nature. And faith does not operate the way most of us think it does. We will look at this in depth in 2 weeks. Next week is Valentine's week, so we're going to talk about love. So we're going to lay lessons in truth down for a week, and we're going to come back to this issue of faith in 2 weeks. So as with denial, Dr. Katie offers 4 fundamental affirmations for our practice. If you still have your card, would you take it out? The first affirmation is, God is life, love, intelligence, substance, omnipotence, omniscience, omnipresence. The second affirmation is, I'm a child or manifestation of God, And every moment, God's life, love, wisdom, power flow into and through me. I am one with God and am governed by God's law. I am spirit, the third affirmation, perfect, holy, harmonious. Nothing can hurt me or make me sick or afraid. For God, spirit is God, and God cannot be sick or hurt or afraid. I manifest my real self through this body now. God works in me to will and do whatever God wishes me to do, and God cannot fail. Because Dr. Katie and Emma Curtis Hopkins suggest that denials and affirmations go together, I would like us to read the denial on the one side of the card and the corresponding affirmation on the other. We're going to read these together, and let's feel how these work together in tandem. So let's read the first denial together. There is no evil. The first affirmation. God is life, love, intelligence, substance, omnipotence, omniscience, omnipresence. The second denial. There is no absence of life, substance, or intelligence anywhere. The second affirmation. I'm a child or manifestation of God, and every moment God's life, love, wisdom, power flow into and through me. I am one with God and am governed by God's law. Third denial. Together, pain, sickness, poverty, old age, and death cannot master me, for they are not real. Third affirmation. I am spirit, perfect, holy, harmonious. Nothing can hurt me or make me sick or afraid, for spirit is God, and God cannot be sick or hurt or afraid. I manifest my real self through this body now. Fourth denial. Together. There is nothing in all the universe for me to fear, for greater is God that is within me than he that is in the world. And the affirmation that goes with that, together. God works in me to will and to do whatever God wishes me to do, and God cannot fail. Emma Curtis Hopkins suggests, set apart 1 hour or 1 day each week to affirm your divine relationship to God, your good. So I would suggest this week, using the denials and the corresponding transformation in our meditation work, to feel how they work together. We deny that which we have come to believe in being prisoners of the flesh, and we affirm what is actually true in place of what we've denied. So before we wrap up, I would like us to do a little singing to plant this into our bodies vibrationally. And I'd like us to take a look at hymn number 185, I'm the Expression of Infinite Life. Some of us may not know this, so I'm going to ask Sharon to play it through for once, and then we'll sing it. Affirmations in it together, but they don't exist, folks. We're going to have to write those. So let's stand and let's sing it faster. Okay? I'm the ever-renewing, the ever-unfolding, the expression of infinite life. I'm the ever... I'm also with you this week. I'm the ever-renewing, ever-unfolding expression of infinite life. Sing it. Let us feel it in our bodies. This is what is so. So, divine presence, we can be seated. We still have to do the offering. Divine presence, we thank you that you have created us to be the ever-expressing, the ever-unfolding expression of infinite life. We feel this to be true. We deepen our connection with you through how we feel. We use our denials to throw away the error thoughts, and we use affirmations to re-implant the truth. Thank you, God. Amen.